Shrewd Manager Christianity's position. Empirically, natural processes are necessary but not sufficient to explain how matter begat life. Can we reasonably consider if supernatural forces formed the Turin Shroud? This is our third of 3 videos that answers yes. Origin of life evidence inside nature points to an outside nature explanation. Those who disagree must overcome many profound scientific hurdles. First, 2,000 unanswered questions. This excellent, exhaustive, and rigorously scientific trilogy by one of our subscribers, Otangelo Grasso, asks if cumulative scientific evidence supports life's emergence through unguided natural processes or instead points to alternative explanations. Together, the 3 volumes raise about 2,000 unanswered questions for unguided naturalism. We urge you to support his work. Second, specifically arranged amino acids. Proteins essential for life are formed by long chains of specifically arranged amino acids folded into intricate 3D structures. Molecular biologist Douglas Axe's experiments show that functional proteins are extremely rare and very isolated from other proteins. The odds of Darwinian processes generating a functional protein fold are less than blindly firing an arrow into the Milky Way and hitting one pre-selected atom. Even a modest length protein of 150 amino acids long has to select from 1 to the 195th power possible combinations. How does a cell know to select, assemble, and fold amino acids so they work? This is a job for information. But where does it come from? This is a major hurdle. Third, laws of thermodynamics. Think of a library. Life requires chemicals, the books, to be sequential on the top shelf. This represents low entropy and high energy, respectively. Per thermodynamics specialist Brian Miller, the books would never end up highly ordered on the top shelf through purely natural mechanisms. No such transitions ever occur without outside help in any situation, even at the microscopic level. Likewise, any arrangement of chemicals at nearly any stage of coalescing into the first cell would move away from the target. Fourth, DNA. Back to our question of how cells know to assemble acid chains into functional proteins. Francis Crick's insight is that DNA functions like a human language or computer code, which instructs the production of proteins. Think of a Scrabble board game. DNA is like the player's tile rack. Typically, players form parts of words on the tile rack before their turn. The letters are not functional in the game, however, until placed in order on the board. To mix metaphors, the Scrabble board is the game of life. Once letters function together on the board, other players can add to the chain, even changing the meaning or function. Note that the tile rack, the DNA, is not the origin of the information. The player's intelligence is. Alternatively, think of DNA as a thumb drive. It conveys data from one laptop to another, but is not the data's ultimate source. So we again come to information, defined as detailed instructions to achieve certain outcomes, such as protein production. Who wrote these instructions? All this argues that the naturalistic model won't get the job done. But how do experts respond? Fortunately, synthetic chemist James Tour asked them. Tour, an outspoken and pesky gadfly, holds that we're clueless how life emerged from matter, and scientists and amateurs alike wildly exaggerate the state of the research. Tour uses the word scam. He distilled thousands of hurdles into 5 essential questions and challenged 10 origin of life experts to answer even one. If they did, he'd shut up and remove all his related content from the internet. One expert he challenged is Lee Cronin, who proposes to make matter come alive in the lab in just a few hours. How close are we? Hopefully within the next 2 years. That's exciting. The problem is, he said this 14 years ago. So far, no one has come close. Lately, Cronin is more measured. Even now, synthetic biologists cannot make a cell from scratch because there is some contingent information embodied outside the genome in the cell. Where does this contingent information come from? Another expert, Stephen Brenner, says with the basic ingredients, he could have life originating by the close of an hour. Tour said, fine. Assume you have access to all polypeptides, polynucleotides, polysaccharides, and lipids of your choice. Could your lab assemble those into a cell? If so, how? But when Tour offered to pay his own way to meet at Brenner's Institute for 3 hours, Brenner declined. None of the other 10 origin of life researchers responded. Why wouldn't they want to shut Tour up? If he said my life's work was a scam, I'd leap to use his platform to defend it. He's not a random troll, but a highly credentialed scientist with 250,000 subscribers. Tour sums it up. They couldn't answer that, so I'm not going to take down anything. I said if they can't answer any of the 5, I'd stop saying we're clueless, but start saying we're utterly clueless. Miller adds that many scientific papers use the same approach. They ignore nearly all practical challenges and completely disassociate their work from realistic experiments. And they assume, without justification, the existence of an unlimited source of energy, an engine, and information. What do non-experts say? YouTubers and popular media assert that scientists can make life in the lab, or are close. But many rely on the same experts that ignored Tour. So again, why don't the experts defend their work against Tour's public statements? Are their claims exaggerated like Tour charges? Are YouTubers who rely on these experts likewise exaggerating? Randomly select a dozen non-expert treatments. You'll likely see the same patchy and flawed case-making. Hidden within their reasoning, many deny God, and conclude therefore that God can't be the creator of life. This is circular reasoning, a fallacy. You can't use your assumption that God doesn't exist to prove God doesn't exist. Tellingly, some of the same God deniers sneak God or an intelligent designer into their work without giving him credit. Look for passive phrases like, somehow amino acids are combined and life begins. Somehow? Or in our lab, we programmed DNA to bind peptides together. Here, programmers take on the God role. Or we replicated molecules under controlled conditions. Scientists in God's role again. Did early Earth have controlled conditions? Who controlled them? Or scientists' manipulation of existing DNA is somehow crafting life from scratch. See this cake? I made it from scratch. Sure, I started with cake mix, but I added egg, water, and oil. Last, this talks of the causal power of information. Who caused the information? Whence came its causal power? In sum, scientists may ultimately make matter come alive, but from evidence currently available, unguided natural processes don't get the job done. Popular videos and articles read like wishful thinking, with bold claims and hidden assumptions. The alternative is the early universe got outside help, that is, supernatural guidance. Those who disagree have thousands of hurdles to overcome to show otherwise. Advocates for unguided naturalism can start by demonstrating a source of non-Shannon information available in the pre-life universe, capable of telling chemistry how to become biology. Or simpler still, experts can start by answering even one of Tour's 5 questions. Next, we list features of the Turin Shroud that any image formation theory must explain.